breaking news at 6 as Oregon firefighters gear up and roll out as the Southern California wildfire disaster continues to grow.
And any kind of relief that we can go down there and help them with, that's what we're there to do.
Plus, a Portland florist frustrated after vandals torch a porta potty, causing thousands in damage.
It used to be a really great neighborhood, but ever since the pandemic, it's been challenging.
And what Oregon's biggest school district says it's doing to protect the rights of all students, including those who may be undocumented.
PPS will follow all applicable laws, including the laws designating schools as sanctuaries for students.
Good evening. We begin at 6 with breaking news, continuing coverage of the wildfire emergency in Southern California, where at least 100,000 people have now been ordered to evacuate. That's as several major fires burn from the coast to the valley, whipped by relentless Santa Ana winds, with firefighters' efforts hampered in spots by either low water pressure or hydrants that appear to have run dry.
And this is a live look from our affiliate in Los Angeles. What you're looking at right now is a new fire that has popped up within the last 30 minutes or so in the Hollywood Hills. The wind's there out of the northeast, and this thing is fast moving. The problem here, of course, the difficult terrain. There's also a lot of dry foliage. This is located in Runyon Canyon, less than a half-mile north of Hollywood Boulevard, which, of course, huge concern tonight. The largest fire, though, is the Palisades fire. That has destroyed more than 1,000 buildings in Pacific Palisades. That's along the coast between Santa Monica and Malibu. Homes, businesses, churches, and a high school were all destroyed there. Fire officials say it started yesterday as a backyard fire. Farther inland, the Eaton fire is causing destruction in the foothill community of Altadena. 5 deaths have now been confirmed there, with many homes destroyed.
The new fire, by the way, right in the middle of that map. There are also fires burning near Sylmar in the San Fernando Valley north of the city, as well as higher up in the San Gabriel Mountains, with the ongoing threat that new fires, as you've just seen, can spark at any moment. We have live team coverage. John Adams on the Oregon fire crews, hundreds of them already headed south. But first to Chief Meteorologist Matt Zaffino. Matt, the images are hard to watch. You saw the news about the fire in the Hollywood Hills, the new one. What are the conditions like? Any hope the winds are going to die down now?
They will begin to die down, and they'll become more and more confined to local areas, local canyons, and less widespread. But as you can see, where it's windy, we're getting new fires popping up, because the embers are getting blown and transported by the wind. Then they go into the very dry brush, and you get new fires popping up. Now, big picture, look at this smoke plume extending hundreds of miles offshore, just to give you an extent of how much stuff is burning and how far those offshore winds are blowing. Look at these wind gusts right now. LAX, winds are pretty calm there. Burbank, the winds have gone calm. They were strong a minute ago, but the gusts have died down. But up in places like Chino, Ontario, they're still gusting over 30 miles an hour. And these are not the mountain locations. The strongest winds are up in the mountains, where they're still gusting over 50 miles an hour there. So again, transporting those embers, ash, obviously the smoke, to downwind areas that haven't burned yet, and starting those new spot fires that you were just talking about. Santa Ana, the winds have died off too, which is good. We did expect and do expect the winds to continue to back off a bit overnight tonight. And you can see this on the modeling. They become more confined to the more typical Santa Ana wind locations. This was a much more widespread wind event than a typical Santa Ana wind. The direction a little bit different, more northerly. Typical Santa Anas are more northeasterly or even easterly. That is going to happen again as we go into the next several days. There's going to be more Santa Ana events, but not as strong as the one that we're dealing with right now. Let's check out the airport delays and trends. So far, all of the 5 LA airports not showing delays. I threw Palm Springs on there as well. A lot of people heading that way. So a little bit of good news there, guys.
Appreciate all that information. Thank you, Matt. Let's get now to John Adams in the newsroom. John, you spoke with local fire crews who headed out for Los Angeles earlier today.
Yes, I did. Christine and David, 15 strike teams from numerous counties across the state mobilized today. They plan to be in California for a minimum of 2 weeks, helping our neighbors who have helped with wildfires here in Oregon in the past.
Strike teams across the Portland area loaded up gear and supplies Wednesday morning, just hours after receiving a Mayday call from Southern California.
They've got a significant emergency happening down in California and in one of the largest cities in America.
4 strike teams from Washington County departed around noon from Wilsonville.
They are getting beat up down there right now. And any kind of relief that we can go down there and help them with, that's what we're there to do.
Teams are prepared for battling fires in densely populated urban areas.
We train here just for that, just in case it should happen. So the situation you're seeing down there, our personnel have trained to mitigate structural fires, wildland fires, and that urban interface threat.
5 strike teams also departed from Multnomah County, which includes 3 engines from Portland Fire and Rescue, 1 from the Port of Portland, and 1 from Gresham. Rick Graves with Portland Fire and Rescue says the high winds will create a challenge for crews when they arrive, forcing them to make tough decisions on which homes to save.
It's a difficult situation for the men and women that respond to have to actually move away from a structure that's on fire, but you have to accept there's nothing we can do about that. Let's put all our resources towards something that we can possibly save.
In total, 240 firefighters and 60 engines are being deployed from Oregon, but that number could increase as the situation evolves. The main goal for crews, keeping everyone safe.
Safety's paramount. We'll do safety briefings every morning down there, understand kind of the terrain, get the lay of the land, and just taking care of each other.
Well, and just this evening, the Oregon State Fire Marshal's office announced they are mobilizing 3 more strike teams. So to update some of those numbers in the story, there are now 300 firefighters and 75 engines on the way to Southern California. Back to you, David.
Well, that kind of help definitely so important in helping those people down in Southern California. Appreciate your reporting, John.
Meanwhile, the Red Cross, just one of the organizations working to help wildfire victims. There are many more, though. Red Cross alone, at least 5 shelters are open, serving more than 1,000 people. The need is much greater. The local chapter here in the Portland Metro says it has skilled volunteers at the ready in case they get the call to support their counterparts in LA. And while that has not happened yet, they expect it will, given the scope of what we're seeing with this disaster.
This is huge. This is in very populated areas. We already have over 1,200 people in shelters that we are either managing or supporting down in the Los Angeles region. So we do know that will grow. So it tells me that we will be supporting that at some point, going down there and helping out for sure.
If you'd like to support the Red Cross in its efforts to help wildfire survivors, head to redcross.org.
We will, of course, be monitoring the very latest on these wildfires in Southern California, both on air and streaming. So be sure to download the KGW Plus app on your smart TV for 24/7 updates. We'll also have much more on the wildfire situation coming up at 6:30 on The Story.
Let's return to the Northwest now and give you your headlines, where Portland police are looking for the suspects in a shooting that left 2 teenage boys injured. This was around 8:30 last night along Southeast 117th near Mill Park Elementary. Authorities say 2 groups of people met to, quote, settle an issue, end quote, and shots were fired. The 2 teenagers were taken to the hospital and are expected to be okay.
A Portland man in Washington County Jail is facing child luring and sexual corruption charges. In a child predator sting last spring, detectives posed as children online. They arrested 4 men but couldn't find 33-year-old Joseph Lyons. A grand jury indicted him in November as alleged conversations continued with an undercover detective. Then last Friday, he was arrested. Investigators say Lyons admitted to meeting multiple children he'd spoken to online. If you know anything about his alleged online contact with kids, Washington County detectives want to hear from you.
A controversial plan to protect northern spotted owls by killing thousands of barred owls is expanding to more federally managed lands. Today, the Bureau of Land Management announced it will adopt the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service strategy of hiring trained shooters to kill nearly 500,000 barred owls over the next 3 decades. Barred owls are considered an invasive species in the Northwest and are partly to blame for declining numbers of endangered spotted owls.
And in Washington, a chaotic scene last night at a Costco when a traffic stop escalated into a police shooting and ended with, there you see it, a car crashing into the store and bursting into flames. It happened in Marysville, just north of Seattle. Police say the driver got into a fight with an officer in the parking lot. Then at some point, the officer shot the driver, who hit the gas, dragging the officer with their car until it crashed and caught fire. The driver died at the scene. The officer was hospitalized with minor injuries. And those are some of your headlines. And to Northwest Portland now, where a flower shop in the Pearl District is set to reopen tomorrow. The business was damaged when someone set a porta potty on fire.
Daisy Caballero is live in the Pearl this evening. Daisy, such a bizarre case. What is the business owner telling you?
Yeah, David, Christine, the owner, tells me that he is beyond frustrated with the situation, and because of this, it makes him really want to get out of the Pearl District. Now, where this happened is off Northwest Lovejoy and 11th Avenue, and you can actually see all of the damage still behind me here to the window pane, and also the sidewalk where 2 porta potties melted to the ground. Here's what it looked like Monday morning. Liquid from the porta potty on the ground and some major damage of this empty retail spot next door to the Botanica Floral and Home location. Portland Fire says the heat of the flames broke this window, which allowed smoke to get inside the building. The fumes then went into the flower shop where they had to remove all of the plants so they wouldn't die. The owner had to close shop for several days to air out the space with help from an ozone machine. He says he lost thousands of dollars due to the closure, adding he's not surprised this happened.
One of my first thoughts was they're going to be torched, because I've seen it happen a lot in the city. By my apartment, there's always porta potties around the park, and they're always being lit on fire.
Reuters says in the last 4 years at this location, they've had several broken windows, issues with the homeless, robbed both inside and outside of their store. He's hoping city leaders come up with a solution to stop this from happening to small businesses in the city. And like I mentioned, he did tell me that he would like to get out of the Pearl District to another area. But also, Portland Fire says that this is still under investigation. Now, the shop behind me is set to reopen back up tomorrow at 9 o'clock. Back to you guys.
So unfortunate that that happened. Hopefully he gets some customers tomorrow morning. Thank you, Daisy.